The moon landing wasn't just a victory for America, it was a turning point for humanity. But what if the Soviets had gotten there first? Step into the alternate realities of the space race and the world-shaping consequences of its outcome. Subscribe my YouTube channel and press the bell icon for more videos.
All right, so are you ready to launch into this? Today we are diving deep into the space race.
Ooh, I like that.
A time that you are already interested in.
Absolutely.
That blend of science, politics, and Cold War drama, I mean, it's just irresistible, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
We'll be focusing on the History.com article, The Space Race, Timeline, Cold War and Facts, to unpack this era.
Great source.
For sure.
Yeah, it's a fascinating period.
Yeah.
Imagine this, right? World War II has just ended, and the world is kind of, holding its breath.
Yeah.
Two superpowers emerge from the ashes, the U.S. and the Soviet Union.
Right.
And they have very different ideas about how the world should work.
Okay, so picture this, right? It's not just political speeches and military parades.
Yeah.
It's the Cold War, seeping into everyday life,
Right.
People are building bomb shelters in their backyards.
Yeah.
School kids are practicing duck and cover drills, and this threat of nuclear war.
Oh, yeah.
Constant shadow.
Yeah, I mean, that fear wasn't unfounded.
Right.
The arms race was in full swing. For sure, both sides developing increasingly powerful weapons.
Uh-huh.
Espionage was rampant.
Right.
With both countries trying to steal each other's secrets.
Yeah.
And let's not forget the Korean War.
Right.
A very real and bloody conflict that further intensified tensions.
Yeah, it was a battle for, hearts and minds as much as military might.
Absolutely.
And then in 1957,
oh, yeah.
the world was completely, I think, blindsided.
You could say that.
When Sputnik, the first artificial satellite, is launched by the Soviets.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine the shock waves that sent through the U.S.?
Oh, it wasn't just a technological achievement.
Yeah.
It was a propaganda victory for the Soviets.
Huge.
Suddenly, they were seen as the leaders in space exploration.
Yeah.
A field that, the U.S. considered their own.
Right, right.
This Sputnik moment fueled a national anxiety.
Yeah.
A fear that America was falling behind, technologically.
It wasn't just about losing face either.
No.
I mean, the same rocket that launched Sputnik could carry a nuclear warhead.
Oh, yeah.
That realization
That's scary.
really ramped that anxiety.
Exactly. Sputnik highlighted the potential military applications of space.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about scientific exploration anymore.
Right.
It was about national security.
Yeah, so the U.S. had to respond.
They did.
And they did it in a big way.
A good way.
1958 sees the creation of NASA.
Huge.
Yeah.
President Eisenhower understood the urgency.
For sure.
NASA's creation signaled a commitment to not just catching up,
right,
but surpassing the Soviets.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just about putting astronauts in orbit.
Oh, okay.
Eisenhower also authorized the Corona program.
Okay.
A super-secret project run by the CIA.
Now here's where things get interesting.
Yeah.
What was Corona all about?
Imagine this, like cameras in space.
Wow.
Constantly watching the Soviets.
Oh, wow.
Corona was all about satellite reconnaissance, using, cutting-edge technology to keep tabs on Soviet activities from above.
Oh, wow.
This was the beginning of space becoming a critical arena for intelligence gathering.
So with this backdrop of Cold War tension and a dash of, spy thriller intrigue,
right,
the race to put a man in space begins.
Yeah.
And in 1961, the Soviets achieved this incredible feat.
Unbelievable.
Yuri Gagarin becomes the first human to orbit the Earth.
It's amazing.
What a moment that must have been.
Oh, it put the Soviets firmly in the lead.
Yeah.
And further intensified the pressure on the U.S.
For sure.
Meanwhile, the U.S. was working on Project Mercury.
Okay.
And guess who their first test subjects were?
I don't know who.
Chimpanzees.
What?
They actually sent chimps into space before humans.
Chimpanauts.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I can just picture them in their little spacesuits.
Well, it might seem amusing now.
Yeah.
But it was a crucial step.
Right.
They needed to ensure a living being could survive the stresses of spaceflight before risking human lives.
Of course, yeah, it makes sense. And it wasn't long between the U.S. sent their own astronaut into space.
Right.
Alan Shepard became the first American in space.
Yeah.
Just a few weeks after Gagarin.
It's close.
But he didn't achieve orbit like Gagarin did.
It was a significant step.
Yeah.
But the U.S. still had some catching up to do.
Right.
And that's when President Kennedy steps onto the stage.
Oh, yeah.
And delivers a speech that would change the course of history.
The famous line.
Remember that famous line? We choose to go to the moon in this decade. Not because it is easy, but because it is hard.
Kennedy's bold declaration in 1961.
Yeah.
essentially challenged the nation to land a man on the moon before the decade's end.
Bold move.
I know.
And it was a masterstroke. Kennedy
Wow.
tapped into something profound.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about beating the Soviets anymore.
Right.
It was about pushing the boundaries of human achievement, inspiring a nation, and reclaiming technological dominance.
Yeah.
This set the stage for Project Apollo,
Okay.
a monumental endeavor.
Project Apollo, massive undertaking.
Oh, yeah.
A symbol of national ambition and, embodiment of Kennedy's vision.
Exactly.
Right.
It required a huge increase in NASA's budget,
Yeah.
a massive workforce of engineers and scientists,
Uh-huh.
and an unwavering dedication to achieve what many thought was impossible.
Right.
But of course, it wasn't without its challenges.
Yeah, I was going to say the Apollo program definitely had its share of setbacks.
Oh, yeah.
The most tragic being the Apollo 1 fire in 1967,
Awful.
which claimed the lives of 3 astronauts during a pre-launch test.
Yeah, that was a devastating blow.
Yeah.
It was a stark reminder of the inherent dangers of space exploration.
Right.
But even in the face of this tragedy, there was a determination to learn from the mistakes
Yeah.
and continue pushing forward.
That's incredible how they persevered.
It is.
But the Soviets were facing their own hurdles, weren't they?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They had internal debates about whether a moon landing was even necessary. And then they suffered a major setback with the death of their chief engineer,
Oh, wow.
Sergei Korolev. He
Yeah.
was a brilliant mind.
Yeah.
And his loss had a significant impact on the lunar program.
So the U.S. is forging ahead with Project Apollo.
Yes.
The Soviets are facing these internal struggles.
Right.
This sets the stage for a truly pivotal moment in the space race.
Oh, for sure.
In December 1968,
Here we go.
Apollo 8 successfully orbits the moon.
Big moment.
This was a huge win for the U.S., wouldn't you say?
Oh, it's a game changer.
Yeah.
Not only did it demonstrate that the U.S. had the capability to reach the moon,
Uh-huh.
it also gave them a psychological edge.
Right.
They were circling the very object the Soviets were aiming for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet that must have been a huge morale booster for the American public.
Oh, totally.
And then that set the stage for the ultimate goal, a lunar landing.
Huge.
We'll delve into that historic moment in the next part of our deep dive.
But for now,
I think we've covered a lot of ground.
we've laid the groundwork for understanding this fascinating era.
Yeah.
The space race wasn't just about rockets and astronauts.
Right.
It was about ideologies, anxieties,
Uh-huh.
and the relentless pursuit of pushing the boundaries of human achievement.
For sure. Okay, so we left off with Apollo 8 successfully orbiting the moon. Talk about a cliffhanger. What happens next?
Well, picture this. It's July 20th, 1969. Millions of people around the world are glued to their televisions, holding their breath. And then it happens. The Apollo 11 lunar module touches down on the surface of the moon.
I get chills just thinking about it.
It was a moment that transcended borders and ideologies. The grainy black and white images of Neil Armstrong taking those first tentative steps on the lunar surface are etched into our collective memory.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Those words are just as powerful today as they were back then.
Absolutely. And it wasn't just the achievement itself. It was the symbolic victory for the U.S. The moon landing effectively marked the end of the space race. They had achieved what Kennedy had set out to do.
And the Soviets, how did they react?
They faced a series of setbacks, including a dramatic launch pad explosion in 1969, which effectively ended their hopes of a lunar landing. It was a bitter pill to swallow.
So you could say the U.S. had won the space race, but what about the impact beyond that?
The impact was enormous. Think about the media frenzy surrounding the entire space race, especially with television becoming more and more common in homes. It brought the drama of space exploration right into people's living rooms.
The astronauts became instant celebrities, right? They were like the rock stars of their time.
Exactly. They were seen as hero symbols of American ingenuity and courage. And the media played a big role in shaping this narrative, often framing the space race as a battle between good and evil democracy versus communism.
So the moon landing was a huge propaganda victory for the U.S.
Without a doubt, it reinforced their image as a technological superpower. But it also did something else. It captured the imagination of the entire world.
I bet. But what happened after the initial euphoria died down? Did interest in space exploration just disappear?
Not exactly. The U.S. continued sending missions to the moon, but public interest did start to decline in the 1970s. The Soviets, on the other hand, shifted their focus towards space stations and long-duration missions. They realized they couldn't win the race to the moon, so they changed the game.
So the space race, as we knew, it was over.
In a way, yes, the intense rivalry for lunar dominance subsided. But a new chapter was about to begin, one that highlighted the evolving relationship between the two superpowers. I'm talking about the Apollo-Soyuz mission in 1975.
Apollo-Soyuz. What was that all about?
Imagine this, an American Apollo spacecraft and a Soviet Soyuz spacecraft docking in orbit.
Wait, what? So after all that competition, they decided to team up?
It was a remarkable moment. It symbolized a thawing of relations, a shift away from confrontation towards cooperation. The image of the American and Soviet commanders shaking hands in space was incredibly powerful.
That's amazing. So even though the space race had cooled down the quest to explore, space continued but was a different spirit.
It was a powerful message. Even in the midst of the Cold War, there was a recognition that some goals transcended political differences. The desire to explore the universe, to push the boundaries of human knowledge, was something both sides could agree on.
The Apollo-Soyuz mission was a real turning point. But what about the long-term impact of the space race? I mean, how did it shape the way we explore space today?
That's a great question. The space race, with all its intensity and rivalry, laid the groundwork for much of what we see today. It spurred technological innovation at a dizzying pace, from rocketry to materials science to communications. Many of those advances have found applications in our everyday lives. Think about satellite technology, for example.
You're right, we take those things for granted now, but they wouldn't exist without the advancements made during the space race. It's amazing to think about how this competition ultimately benefited humanity as a whole.
Exactly. But perhaps the most lasting legacy of the space race is the sense of inspiration it instilled in generations of scientists, engineers, and dreamers. It showed us what's possible when we set ambitious goals and push ourselves beyond what we think we're capable of.
Yeah, it really makes you think about how far we've come since those, early days of the space race.
Amazing.
From those grainy images of the moon landing to the high definition footage we have now from the International Space Station. I mean, it's been an incredible journey.
And it's a journey that's still unfolding.
Right.
The space race might be over.
Right.
But the quest to explore the cosmos is far from finished. In fact, it's, I think, more exciting than ever.
So what does the future of space exploration hold? Where are we headed next?
Well, we're seeing a renewed interest in lunar missions.
Okay.
NASA's Artemis program aims to establish a sustainable presence on the moon,
Wow.
with the ultimate goal of sending humans to Mars.
So we're going back to the moon, but this time with a much bigger vision.
Exactly. It's not just about planting a flag anymore.
Right.
It's about building like a base camp, a launching pad for further exploration into the solar system.
And Mars is the ultimate goal.
It's definitely a top priority.
Yeah.
The challenges are immense,
Right.
but the potential rewards are even greater.
Yeah.
Imagine the scientific discoveries that await us on the red planet.
Right.
Who knows, we might even find evidence of past or present life.
Now that would be a game changer.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not just government agencies leading the charge anymore, is it?
You're right.
Yeah.
Private companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin are playing an increasingly important role.
For sure.
They're developing reusable rockets,
Yeah.
lowering the cost of access to space,
Right.
and pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
So the new space race is a mix of public and private ventures.
It is.
All vying to push the limits of human exploration.
It's a dynamic and exciting time.
For sure.
We're seeing international collaborations,
Yeah.
new technologies emerging,
Uh-huh.
and a growing awareness of the importance of space exploration for the future of humanity.
It makes you wonder what the next big breakthrough will be. Will it be a permanent best on the moon?
Could
A
be.
crewed mission to Mars? Or maybe something we haven't even imagined yet.
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
The possibilities are endless. And as you continue to explore this topic,
Yeah.
think about this.
Okay.
What role do you see yourself playing in this grand adventure?
That's a great question.
Whether it's supporting space exploration initiatives,
Yeah.
pursuing a career in a related field,
Uh-huh.
or simply staying informed and sharing your passion with others.
Right.
There's a place for everyone in this exciting journey.
That's a great point. It's not just about the astronauts and engineers.
No.
It's about all of us. This is our shared future.
Right.
And space exploration is a reflection of our collective ambition and curiosity.
Exactly. The space race was just the beginning. The real adventure is still unfolding.
Yeah.
And it's one that we can all be a part of.
Well, this has been an incredible deep dive into the space race and the future of space exploration.
Yeah.
It's amazing to think about how far we've come and how much more there is to discover.
It's been a pleasure sharing this journey with you. Keep looking up at the stars and never stop asking questions.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Until next time, keep exploring.